I've been playing Enlisted recently, as I always do, and I've been playing a lot of the tanks in the game, because now I'm part of the Soviet Union, and I've almost finished Tier 5 already, which is an accomplishment on its own. But as I was playing, I was like, I wonder what tanks could be added to the game. We've already got a decent amount from Tier 1 to Tier 5. Each nation has their own unique vehicles, and I wondered to myself, I wonder what Gaijin could add if they ever came out with, like, oh, I don't know, a tank update, or if they had bigger maps, even though the maps are quite huge already, but maps that incorporated better tank warfare. Because a lot of the time, it's usually either a tank that will just drive right into the middle of the map trying to kill as many enemies as they can, or tanks kind of slowly driving around buildings and stuff to hopefully not get shot at. We never really see true tank combat. It's rare. You may get one or two times where you have an enemy and an allied tank shooting at each other, but usually it's quite over very fast, depending on what the tank is and where they are and their advantage or disadvantage. So in this video, I've gone into War Thunder and I've picked out one or two tanks from each nation in Enlisted that I believe could go in to Enlisted, right? They're not overpowered, they're not prototype tanks like the E100 or the Mouse or the Object 279 or, you know, tanks like that, or anything post-war, so 1949, 50, 60, you know, trying to keep it in that realm of, you know, 1944, because you've got Normandy, up to like 1945, like Berlin and Stalingrad, stuff like that. So I'm going to get in to War Thunder and I will show you the tanks that I believe could be implemented without causing too much of a destruction to the game's overall tank mechanics.
Oh, no, no.
So the first Soviet tank I thought would be a nice, interesting feature into the game is more of a tank destroyer than a tank, and it is the Su-100Y. Now, why? Well, mainly because of that 130mm gun, the B-13. And I can, with these tanks, before I get into them in depth, is I tried to think of tanks that wouldn't be too overpowered. So, for example, the Su-100Y, yes, has a dirty great 130mm gun. However, the best armor on the tank is only 60mm. So that's fuck all, really. That's less than, I believe, a Sherman in some parts. This is the strongest armor, is 60mm thick. I think that it could be more of a defensive vehicle, and it would definitely take out Tiger 2s. Definitely take out Tigers and Panthers, wouldn't have an issue whatsoever. I think more open areas, it would be best suited. Kind of more towns or cities probably wouldn't be that good. The side armor also incorporates the powder charges on the inside, so if you get a nice shot on the side armor, it's just going to fuck the vehicle up completely. But a lot of the vehicle, well, I think only a couple of the vehicles that I'm going to be talking about are tank destroyers, because I went into War Thunder and the problem is that a lot of the tanks that I wanted to pick are already in Enlisted, so that's kind of an issue. However, I wanted unique tanks, and I think the Su-100Y is quite the unique vehicle. It's, I mean, yeah, it's big, it's boxy, but I think the main appeal would be that big gun. Now, could it be a premium tank? Could be, yeah. I think that if they made it that way, if they made it a premium, it might raise some eyebrows. Don't know about that, but it could. But like, oh, you're paying for, you know, pay to win. It's not a pay to win vehicle. Definitely not. I think small arms fire, something like, I don't know, an MG 131 could probably go through the side armor, probably. anything like a 20 mil would go through the side. The armor's not thick at all on it. If you're going through the hull, you're not doing it right. You'd go through the turret or the casement because the powder charges are fucking everywhere on the vehicle. And yeah, I think that for tank-on-tank combat, it would probably win against a Tiger II if it had the advantage. If it didn't, it would probably suffer hugely. But I'm looking at this more of, interesting designs, and I think that a tank like the SU-100Y could be a vehicle that I could see in the game. Because you've already got tanks like the Stug 3G. It's not the most amazing tank destroyer in the game, but it's in there, and I don't see many people use it. Because why take the Stug 3G when you can just have a Panzer IV with technically the same gun? So I would say that the SU-100Y is a vehicle that I would approve to go into Enlisted. So 2 honourable mentions for the Soviet Union, these would be the last 2 for them, is the SU and the ISU-152, based on the KV-1 and the IS chassis. I was looking at these and I thought, could these be a good addition to the game? Another set of tank destroyers, even though they're more assault guns, because they're guns, not guns, they're howitzers. So they would be essentially on par with the KV-2. So why would I choose these? I think that these would be a very cool addition to the game. You could have the ISU-152 with the Dushka 50 on top. It would more be for taking out things like, you could say, half tracks or doing monumental damage to infantry. There's that 152 howitzer. It's decently armoured. Say it's not bad. It's got 120mm on the mantler. I'd say, 90 on the hull, lower hull sides. They look fucking cool. Like, I really like the SU and ISU-152. I think that I wouldn't say demand, but I would say the need is there. Yeah, you've got the KV-2, which is a BR4. And I don't have one, or I haven't used one. I've got one, but I haven't used it on the battlefield because I've gone with the IS-2. But generally, I think that these would have a purpose, and someone who likes tank destroyers and would want something monstrous, like these would nickname the Beast Killer, especially the ISU-152, that this could probably do significant damage to a Tiger II. Tiger, yeah, I'd say so. If they modelled it that way. I haven't seen this in War Thunder. I haven't seen these be used in War Thunder to take out tanks like Tigers, but because it's a tank game, that it would be. In Enlisted, it's completely different, because even though the tank kind of mechanics is based off War Thunder, they've modelled it completely different. Obviously, if you go into a KV-2, into War Thunder, you need to take tanks out. Kind of the point of the game. However, in Enlisted, they've completely changed it, because high explosive is used for infantry and light skinned vehicles. Your sole purpose isn't fighting tanks. However, you may have to fight a tank. These would probably be a lot better, because I think that the gun on the ISU-152 isn't the same howitzer as the KV-2. I could be wrong, I'm not 100% sure. But even if it did a significant amount of damage to tanks, like the Tiger II, it would still be an advantage because you fuck the tank up, which then might give your team time to take it out. Knowing my fucking luck with my teammates, they can't do fuck all. So, you could have these at, BR4, BR5. The KV-2's BR4, so you could have it at BR4 or 5. Maybe the SU-152 at BR4 and the ISU-152 at BR5. Just because of the gun, again. I think that it would really go off the gun more than the armour, because for some reason, as I said, the 76 Shermans at BR5 for the Soviets, and it's just a 76 Sherman. There's nothing amazing about it. But yeah, these 2 tanks I think, just as honorable mentions, I think I could see them. Like, I picture the game, I picture spawning in, having the hatch open, the dirty great gun in fucking front of you, see a bunch of enemies, fire HE, boom, you've killed like 10 people. And yes, your armor's thin as well, so, fucking Panzer IVs and Panthers and Tigers will have no problem taking you out. However, it's that fear. Seeing this fucking thing come at you and you're like, oh, fuck, it's gonna fuck me up. Because I think that, personally, the Germans, again, have that power imbalance between everything else. When you're the fucking Americans, you just get shat on by the Tiger II. When you're in the fucking Soviet Union, you get fucking shat on by the Tiger II. Their fucking weapons. I might make a video at some point of like why I believe the Germans are overpowered, or ranking each nation. I might do that as a video at some point. But yeah, these are the two honorable mentions, and we'll move on to the Americans. So, starting off the Americans, I've gone for the T-29 heavy tank. Now, T-29 is one of my favourite American heavy tanks, mainly because of that lovely 105mm gun and the monstrous turret armour on the front. Absolutely fucking insane. Now, why have I chosen the T-29? Well, basically, it's because I've gone off the Pershing that's already in the game. Now, the Pershing has a 90mm and the Super Pershing has a 105. So, it would only make sense to have something similar to the Pershing, but with a lot more fucking turret armor on the front, i.e. the T-29. Now, would the T-29 fit? Absolutely. I would see no issue whatsoever that the T-29 couldn't fit in the game. It would be another kind of option to have. I think this is what they need to do. I think they need to have, in the game, they need to have at the end, like BR5, they need to have branching tanks in BR5. Yes, you can go back and play, the original, like, older tanks that you unlocked. But if you were, for example, to get to BR5 and like, I want to play a BR5 tank destroyer, boom, branches off and you can play tank destroyers, heavies, mediums, kind of like World of Tanks or War Thunder, where instead of getting to the end of the tech tree and the only tank you can play for that BR is, say, the Pershing, you could go, oh, well, I want to play a heavy tank, I want to play the T-29. Oh, I want to play a tank destroyer, I want to play the T-28. Stuff like that. And you don't have to then, compromise by going back to an older tank that's technically not BR5, but you just want to play something else. So the T-29, I think, would fit definitely as quite a good brawling tank, or one that, can hide, cover the lower hull, just because the hull's really fucking weak compared to the Pershing. But that turret arm is monstrous, so, if you're fighting Tiger II, all you've got to do is essentially go hull down and you've completely won, because, they aren't getting through that front armor. Absolutely not. The Germans don't, Tiger II didn't have any APC, BC, or anything like that. But, if the Super Pershing can fire APDS, I'm pretty sure that the T-29 could also fire APDS. I don't know if it had it. I'd have to double check if it did. However, T-29 would be a perfect addition, especially in like the Pacific Theatre. You could also argue that the T-30, but then the T-30 was more of a prototype. Yeah, same as the T-29, never saw combat. However, T-30 had a 155mm gun, so that would probably be quite painful experience. Anybody to go against the T-30, it's technically the same turret and same tank. It's just, a different gun. But because you've already got the Pershing and the Super Pershing, the T-29 wouldn't have any issue fitting in. And if anybody wants to disagree with me, please let me know. For any of these vehicles in this list, please let me know in the comments if you disagree with any of them. I might feel that there are a few that, might be an issue. But I don't see why the T-29 couldn't. Yeah, the turret's fucking strong. However, if you fucking fight anything else, like the fucking Tiger II, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to go through that fucking armor, because it's a fucking nightmare. Tiger 2P, not really. The Tiger 2H is a fucking problem. And these tanks aren't really designed to be put in the game to like, oh, just completely dominate the Tiger 2. It's to give the fucking Americans a chance. Honestly, like, the times I've been in the Pershing, like, yes, I have the Pershing, I'm going to do so good. Come against the Tiger 2, and they just go fucking straight to the front of my hull and just kill me. And I'm like, great, I can't do that to you, because you've got more armor than me. I've got like 101mm of armor at the front. You've got 150 float. And you're like, that's not fun at all. And, you know, would the Tiger 2 be the same? Yeah. Yeah. But it's another option to use. There are many tanks like the T-28 that, yeah, technically existed. You could have that, because that has a 105mm gun. Very strong fucking armor. I think the front armor's 305mm, and it's got a steel plug as a fucking gun mantlet. So that wouldn't be an issue at all. T-95 could do the T-30, so it gives it a much better fighting chance against the Tiger 2. But these are all, you know, concepts and stuff. But it would be nice if they did bring out a, you know, an update that had, you know, more vehicles, and they branched the tank tree out just a little bit, so you had more variety when it came to choosing your playstyle of vehicle. So, without further ado, we're going to move on to the next tank I came up with. So this is the last tank for the Americans that I could think of, and it's the T-14 heavy tank. Now, I remember this tank from World of Tanks. It was quite a potent vehicle at the time until they fucking nerfed it, because of course they would. Why do I believe that this tank could fit in the game? I think that because of its 75mm gun, it would more fit with the Shermans, and it would more kind of go against Panzer IVs and potentially Panthers. I mean, maybe not Panthers because of the gun, but, you know, fighting from the side armor of the Panther, yeah, you could probably do some damage. Why I thought this was a good idea is because of its armor. Thickest armor is 133mm at the front. Now, that's more than anything that, you know, currently roughly exists for that BR. And, you know, I think that's monstrous. Like, from the front, 5.2 inches of armor is insane. Quite slow. It is 42 tons, so roughly around the weight of a Panther. You have got that 75mm, which is essentially the Sherman's gun. It has a 50 cal, and it has 2 Brownings, one in the hull and one in the turret. This would be kind of a stopgap between, I would say, the Pershing and the Jumbo. Maybe, yeah, because the Jumbo on itself has a 75, and then the Jumbo 76 obviously has the 76mm gun. So I would say that this would probably go in between the Pershing and the Sherman Jumbo. Because, yeah, the Sherman Jumbo has really good armor, but this has fucking monstrous armor. 133mm, that's a lot of armor at the front, bro. Like, nothing's getting through that. So you would probably most likely go through the turret. Or, you know, the side armor. I think this could fit. Yeah, people would probably disagree because of the armor. I know. However, got the Sherman's gun. I would say it's a bit slow. You know, not very fast. It's only 28 kilometers an hour. It's not monstrously fast. It does have a crew of 5. It could fit. I can see it fitting. Definitely. I don't see there's an issue. Yeah, I would say that I think just the armor is the issue, and people probably wouldn't like it, and the fact that they, you know, would probably have to downgrade the armor, which wouldn't make any sense. But this tank is in War Thunder, so you are fighting other vehicles that potentially have that penetration power to go through the front, or they're not even going through that armor, they're going through the side armor, or they're going through the turret. So yes, I think this could be another stopgap, and I think because it's a heavy tank, as I said before, Sherman 76 is more of a medium tank, so having a heavy tank branch for basically like the Soviets, Americans, Germans, and Japanese having that branch wouldn't be that bad. I think for the Germans, it's a bit different because you go from mediums to heavy tanks. And the fact that then if you wanted, you know, something heavy that's a medium at BR5, you might struggle a little bit because you might have to go into like Panther 2 territory, or, you know, God forbid, go into the E series, which I don't think wouldn't work. So I think for the Germans, it makes sense. Japanese, it would make sense to have a branching path because for them it goes medium, heavy, and then it goes tank destroyer, where you could then branch that, so you could go tank destroyer route or you could go heavy route at the same BR, not going BR4 then 5. Americans, I think it would be good to do it this way because the Pershing's technically a medium, it's not really a heavy tank. That was more like the kind of T32. You could technically call it a heavy tank. You could, yeah, technically. Pershing is a heavy. But, you know, you had things like the T29 that was going to be technically the heavy tank, and then you would move up to the T30, and it was like the Patton, and then obviously you moved over and it's like, yeah, you got the Pershing, and, you know, all that. But yeah, I'm going to stop that. But yeah, I would say T14 would probably be about BR4, BR5, and could it be a premium? Maybe. Probably, I'd say premium, because the only other tanks you have is the you have the Sherman Jumbo Premium, that's BR4, and you've got the Firefly, which is BR5. So this could probably just be a normal tank, I'd say. And I'd say for T29 would definitely be BR5. Probably wouldn't say it's a premium. The Americans have already got a premium heavy, not heavy, it's medium, have a premium fucking tier 5. If they did bring in heavies, like of its own designated category, you could have it as a premium tank, and I would definitely fucking buy it. I'm gullible like that. But I'm gonna stop fucking chit-chatting, and we're gonna move on to Germans next. First tank for the Germans is the Jagdpanzer 38, or the Hetzer. Now, this was the tank that made me want to make this video. I was playing around, remember what I was doing, I saw the Hetzer and I went, I think the Hetzer would fit in Enlisted, right? Like, you've already got the Panzer 38T, the Czech tank, in the German territory, premium. It's essentially the same chassis. It's a bit modified, but it's roughly the same chassis. I don't see nothing but positive for this tank, right? Apart from its, you know, gun traverse, probably the only thing I can think of. For one, it's small, it's mobile, it's got the powerful 75mm Pak 39, and it's got a remote weapon station. Probably the first remote weapon station, probably, of any tank. It's, you know, it's a small, nimble tank destroyer, and I think that if you took maps like Berlin, Stalingrad, you know, Normandy, I think that, you know, it would trundle along very well, and it could get into defensive positions, it could hide in tree lines, and I think it would be the perfect sneaky tank destroyer. And the fact that they recently added the Marder series, I just don't see why this couldn't be a vehicle featured, really. Like, it just fits. It just fits. Do I have any scientific evidence? No. But when you've got tanks like the Stug, and you've got tanks like, well, the Marders, as I just said, like, I don't see why this couldn't be featured. Generally, I would say you could put it around BR3, you know, around the Stug 3. You could have it as a premium. I wouldn't see any issue of it being a premium tank. You've already got the Panther as a premium tank. You know, Panzer 3 premium. I don't see why this one couldn't be a premium. The original Panzer 38T in the game's a premium tank. So why couldn't this be a tank that's a premium, or even in the game in the first place? I think that it would fit, definitely. And I can see it, you know, drive around, you know, you go hold down, Or you go hatch down and you've got your little fucking remote weapon station, you've got a camera on top or something. You know, you could have camera that you usually have, or the sight on your tanks in Enlisted that allow you to, you know, traverse 360 degrees while you hold down. I think that that could be mounted to the remote weapon station. The commander can poke his head out and you can, you know, hatches, you can look around, the MG's in front of him. You could, you know, still use the MG34. Might be a bit tricky because it's mounted to a remote weapon station, but it might work. And then, or it doesn't work and he has to go hatch down to use it, you know, whatever. Because obviously you're a small vehicle, but because you're a small vehicle, you're a big fucking dude. As soon as you poke your head out, people are going to fucking see you and fucking shoot you. So it's probably best to keep your head down and use the remote weapon station as it's designed to be. But I think it would be a cool feature, and I hope in the future that it does become a vehicle, either premium or standard. I'm just thinking why they didn't incorporate it sooner. That it's weird that one of the most recognisable tank destroyers the Germans ever created is not in the game, and they brought the Marders in. I mean, the Marders are pretty, they're pretty, you know, recognisable, but I think the Hetzer's probably one of the most recognisable out of all of them. But I really like the Hetzer, and I hope in the future that it does become tank and Enlisted. Now, without further ado, let's go on to the next tank. So, coming in at number 2 for the Germans is the Ferdinand, or the updated version, the Elephant tank destroyer. Now, before you have a go at me, the next tank is even worse. So just hold your anger for a minute. The reason why I chose Ferdinand is because you already have the Hurry in the game. The Hurry reproduction, or prototype, whatever the fuck it's called. That thing's a fucking monster. The fact that when you have the Pershing, you cannot go through the front of it. Without a doubt, you can't go through the front of it. Right? This, at least you would have roughly a chance. Kind of. The Ferdinand has a lot of armor at the front, 200mm. So, yeah. Not great. Side armor's, you know, not amazing. So you'd have a advantage of going through the side. Only mounts in 88. So it's roughly, no, it would be the same. I think it's the same as the Tiger 2's gun. It's the Pack 43 too. So I think it's a modified version of the Tiger 2's gun. Big vehicle, so anything like air attacks would probably fucking decimate the thing. Slow, sluggish. So yeah, you've got a lot of armor. You're fucking slow. You've got a whole mounted machine gun. You have a crew of 6. You would be quite the formidable opponent on the battlefield. I could think of that, definitely. I think if they brought out tanks like this, they would have to seriously rework other tanks to fight against it. I don't know why they haven't done that already, because I've tested the Super Pershing against a Hurry prototype, and it still suffers trying to take it out. It's horrendous. So if they brought these into the game, they'd have to come up with something like, you know, as I said, the T-29 or even the T-30. Something with a fucking fighting chance, because it is horrendous sometimes when you're fighting tanks like the Tiger 2 and you're like, right, I've got him. Oh, he set me in the hull and he's killed all my crew. Can I do that to him? No. So, yeah, the Ferdinand would be another formidable opponent if you saw it. However, I think that, you know, you got 200mm on the front. You probably wouldn't go for the front of the casement anyway. You would probably go for the hull, because, you know, it's where the driver and fucking co-driver sit. But a lot of these tanks in Enlisted, you have to flank anyway. They're not designed for you to just go through the front willy-nilly. You've got to, you know, you've actually got to have some strategy when you take these things out. However, when you're Americans and Soviets, they don't have to fucking flank you. They can just go through the front of your fucking tank. I'm going to start complaining about that because it fucking annoys me. However, yes, Ferdinand, Elephant, whatever you want to call it, I think would go very well. Just having like a new kind of branch of vehicles and would create, I would say, create more of a dynamic of tank on tank combat. I think just having, one heavy tank for the Americans, one heavy tank for the Germans, one for the Japanese, one for the Soviets. I think, if you think about it, it's like you could have multiple different vehicles. You could have bigger lobbies, right? And you could have multiple tanks at the same time. You could have 3 or 4. I think now you can only have two per side. I think, and half the time someone goes in a fucking light tank, and you're like, "What are you doing? You're fighting Tiger 2s, and you're in a light tank because they've got one BR5 weapon." But they're only like BR3, so they're taking in like T-34s into Tiger 2 games, and you're like, well, that's fantastic, mate, well done. You could also argue that the Tiger P could be in the game, because it's essentially the Ferdinand chassis, but it's a Tiger turret. I think that would work. Definitely work very well. As I said previously, these are tanks in War Thunder, so, you are fighting, American tanks, you're fighting Soviet tanks, fucking Italian tanks, whatever, Japanese tanks. So it wouldn't really be an issue. The Ferdinand was very good in War Thunder, and I wouldn't have an issue with it being in Enlisted. You could give it an MG34, even though I believe it never fucking had it on the top. But if you can't use that whole mounted machine gun, might as well just, bend the rules a little bit. Reproduction comes to mind. And you can, mount a MG34 on the top just to give it a little bit of defense, just a little bit. Because otherwise, what the Russians did at the Battle of Kursk is they threw Molotovs on the fucking engine deck because it didn't have a machine gun and couldn't defend itself. So, one of those. However, there are tanks like the Stug in the game that don't have a machine gun, so it can't actually defend itself against infantry. So there's that. So that's the Elephant, Ferdinand, whatever you want to call it. We're going to move on to the final tank for the Germans, and I know you're going to love this one. So the final tank for the Germans, and this is probably going to rile some people up massively, because I think people would argue that this would be a huge power imbalance to the game, but I think it'd be fucking cool, and it's the Jagdtiger. A tank on the Tiger 2 chassis mounts a 128mm Pak 44. This thing would be a monster in the game. It is slow and sluggish and could easily be, flanked and taken advantage of. But if you can get a tank in your sights and pull that trigger, you will send them into another fucking dimension. This thing would be fucking naughty. Mainly because the fact that it's a 120mm, so you could go, oh, well, that's roughly on the same as like the KV2 or the 120 shotgun for the Japanese, or, as I said previously, the ISU or SU-152s. Nope, because this is an actual tank destroyer cannon that fired APC-BC. This isn't a howitzer, it's an actual tank gun. And it would do monstrous damage to anything it came across. If you were in Normandy, if you saw this fucking thing, you would probably, you'd probably shit yourself, to be fair. To see that at the end of a fucking road or little alleyway looking at you, not the greatest thing in the world. The main reason why I chose it is because it's already on the chassis of the Tiger 2. And yeah, that gun would cause significant problems for anybody that came across it. It's that fact of these things were in World War II. Yes, you could argue that there isn't a mechanic in the game for these things to break down. That is true. Very true. However, things like air attacks and just getting behind or around the fucking thing would cause it to, suffer. It's 72 tons, by the way. Like, it's a heavy fucking boy. So you would see it on the fucking battlefield, and I think this would give more players an incentive to fucking kill it, instead of, oh, there's a Tiger 2. I'm just going to leave it alone because I don't have to deal with it. I think that if these were paired with Tiger 2s, these would be a fucking force to be reckoned with. And as I said previously, with the elephant, I think that if you had more players on maps and they were a bit bigger, you could then have multiple tanks on each team. And I think that tank battles would be better instead of 2 tanks on each team. One goes one way, one goes the other way, one gets killed because infantry wasn't there to support them, and the other one just, gets 1 kill and then gets fucking sniped across the map. This would be a heavy assault gun, because it was a heavy assault gun, and would be in packs with Tiger 2s and infantry. And, I can see it, definitely. And as a note as well, I wish, or I hope in the future, that Enlisted actually port over the original sounds from War Thunder. Because as I went in to record some of the training clips, where I just had the tanks on the training ground, the fucking sounds are so good. They are crisp and they are fucking beautiful to hear. A 105 go off, a 128 go off, 75 go off. The fucking sounds are so cool. Whereas in Enlisted, they're just literally the same fucking sound for the nation. It only changes when you go from, BR1 to 3, then it's like BR4, and then BR5. They've all got like this roughly the same sounds. Like, if I'm going to have a heavy tank, like a 122 or an 88, I want to hear that fucking boom and that crack of that sound of the gun going off. In this, in War Thunder, the fucking sounds are so perfect. It makes you feel like you're actually firing a big fucking gun and not just like a fucking airsoft gun. And I just wish that it just felt that way. That you have your head open, open hatch, you fire the gun, fucking dust, and debris, and like your guy kind of like gets muffled because the fucking gun's gone off. You fire the gun, the whole thing shakes. 128's no fucking joke. And seeing this tank in real life, it's a huge fucking vehicle, massive. So it would be a force, and the fact that you could be somewhere across the map and hear it go off, nuts, absolutely nuts. I would say this would have to go BR5, definitely. It would be probably, as I said, the tank destroyer version, so it would go either above or below the Tiger 2. Premium, doubt it. Because if this came out as a premium tank destroyer, people would buy it in a heartbeat. All you would see is Tiger 2 fucking Yak Tigers across the map doing monstrous damage. They would have to nerf it somehow. I know that in War Thunder it's very sluggish, it's very slow, and the tanks that you do fight, because of how the BR system works, you will fight things that can fire APDS, or you might even fight, not chieftains. You fight chieftains in the Yak Tiger? I can't remember how the BR system works in War Thunder, but you would fight tanks that, have the capability of going through the turret and the casement and the side armor, so you're not indestructible. I've played it. I have it in the game. That's where I got the footage from, and it's, it's not overpowered at all. It's probably pretty weak for the tanks that you have to fight against. So for Enlisted, maybe a bit overpowered, maybe a little bit, but I think it would fit because it does have its benefits, but it also has its major drawbacks as well. It gives it that perfect balance, and it would be another vehicle to add to the game that would make me want to fucking kill myself. So that's the Germans, and we're going to finish off with the Japanese. Right, hear me out for this one. I know it's a bit controversial because there's no definitive proof that it was ever delivered to Japan, but after going through the fucking tech tree and seeing that most of the tanks in the tech tree are already in the game, or basically just similar to the tanks in the game, I've gone with the Tiger for the Japanese tree. Mainly because I feel like it could fit well, and that, yeah, there's that kind of story that they were going to deliver a Tiger to Japan, to use or potentially copy, but it never arrived, which then makes people go, oh, well, why have it in the game then if it never really happened? The way these games are is like a lot of things are prototypes, they're blueprint designs, they never fucking existed. So I don't see why a tank like the Tiger, that, you know, had this history behind it that it was going to be sent to Japan, couldn't then be a tank in the Japanese territory, or even as a premium tank for the Japanese. When you've already got, as I keep saying, like the Hurry prototype, it never fucking existed. So to have it as a top tier tank destroyer for the nation, I have no reason why the Tiger couldn't also be a tank for the Japanese. It would give the Americans another thing to fucking kill. But you know, the only other things you really got is like the Chiri, and you're like, yeah, it's a bit like more of a medium. Not really a heavy, it's more of a medium tank. So having something like this, and to picture it in the Japanese color style, I think it'd be pretty cool. And, you know, people might go, oh, why is the Tiger in the game? You might have people that don't understand or know that the Germans were going to give Japanese a Tiger. So people might go, oh, well, why is this in the game? The Japanese never had a Tiger. No, they didn't. But they were going to receive one, but it never arrived. So to have that kind of alternate reality of, oh, what if it did arrive? What if it did arrive? And, you know, they could either have it modified or they just keep it the same. Literally, the tank that you play, you could say is the only Tiger that they ever delivered. Like when they do like all the realistic, if War Thunder realistic, there'd only be like certain vehicles that could be spawned in at a time because they only made like 4 of them. So you could technically only have 1 Tiger tank at a time per game, which wouldn't make any sense. But it'd be more that, oh, the Japanese got the Tiger, they somehow produced enough of the fucking same thing, even though it'd be very fucking difficult because at the time Germany struggled. So to have Japan do it as well would be even more insane. But if you just think about it and go, okay, imagine if they could. Cool. You're playing the Japanese, you're playing BR5, we're playing BR4. It'd be BR4 because that's what it is in the German territory. You could then go, well, I'm going to spawn in the Tiger. You got the 88, you're fighting the fucking Jumbo, you're fighting the Pershing, Super Pershing, whatever. Fighting Shermans, standard shit that you have as the Americans in like Normandy and stuff like that. It's nothing different. But it might throw you off a little bit because you're like, oh my god, it's a Tiger. Like, what's that doing there? But, you know, I think it could fit. Really, it's the same fucking thing. Same vehicle. It fit because, you know, you've got the Hurry prototype, you've got the Chiri. Like, it's nothing different. It's nothing different compared to the fucking German Tiger. You could literally just take the German Tiger file from the Germans and put it into Japanese territory. And then all you have to do is then just allow the tank to have the paint applied, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Nothing different about it. And that's all for the Germans, the Americans, the Soviets, the Japanese. Now, I'm going to end off the video here. So guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're not too mad at me for the decisions that I thought would be good additions for tank-on-tank combat. They're not too OP, maybe the Yag Tiger is, but in my mind, I think they fit. I didn't go out my way to choose like the easy ones like, oh, the Mouse, E100, 279, you know, fucking T95, T28, even though T28 and T95 could fit, but they're, you know, they're fucking heavy and, you know, very overpowered. But I didn't choose like monstrous vehicles like the fucking Patton or the M109. M109? M103. Fucking M109, fucking idiot. M103. You know, those things. I think they'd fit. I wouldn't have any issue. And I hope in the future they do come out with an update, or they do update the game to allow more vehicles to be added. Maybe, as I said before, like water tanks, where the tree branches off and you have your heavy, You could have a BR5 tank destroyer, BR5 medium, you know, or, very statement, they could even introduce self-propelled artillery. Wouldn't that be fucking cool? You could have like the M44, you could have the Hummel, you could have the Grilla, you could have, the, what's it called? It's the M12. You could have, you're going into the prototypes. Yeah, there are a few Soviet ones. I'm not familiar with the Soviet artillery. However, if you can have more darts, why not have self-propelled artillery? Basically what you do is a mortar, but you've got a bigger cannon. Then people would go, oh, what's the point of artillery? True. However, you know, you'd probably have a really long fucking reload and be very vulnerable to artillery fire yourself, small arms, explosives, you know, stuff like that. Maybe it'd work. Who knows? That's just me thinking, because I like tanks, I love tanks, and that's just me, you know, rambling and thinking that these things could work. Maybe, I don't know. I hope to see a Hetzer in the future, because it's probably one of the only tanks I listed that would actually fit the game. So I'm gonna stop rambling, and I'm gonna say thank you guys for watching the video. If you did like it, please let me know. If you think of any other vehicles that could be added, please let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you disagreed with any of the tanks that I came up with, please let me know as well. I'd love to know what you think of the tanks I came up with. And in the next video, guys, I will see you soon. Cheers, guys. Thank you.